Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Out of the Shadows Live. As always, I'm your host, Alex Pedikov. I hope everyone is having a great Monday night so far. To those that are just joining in, or maybe this is your first time watching, this is a live show we do every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Sasquatch Out of the Shadows. We talk about Bigfoot, cryptids, other topics as well. So we'll get into all that sort of stuff, but just wanted to kind of go over that for folks that might be new or maybe haven't seen previous episodes. You can watch all the previous episodes. There's a link in the playlist, or a playlist, excuse me, down below in the description where you can check out previous episodes. We've got a lot of different episodes, a lot of great conversations over the past 2 years that I've been doing this live stream for. So definitely go check that out. I'm not using my usual headphones, so I might have to switch here. These things are very hard to hear myself on these guys. I'll do that in a little bit though. But yeah, guys. So just to go over a few things here as people start kind of pouring in, and I'll say hey to everyone in a minute here. I'm just kind of going to go over a few things. So tonight we were having a solo show. I'm just going to do a solo show, maybe a little bit shorter. I guess we'll see how it goes. But I'm basically going to just be sharing some videos and maybe having some conversations and about whatever you guys want to talk about. If anyone has any questions, we'll throw those in the comments in the chat and go over big Q&A about really anything, I guess, Bigfoot related or otherwise. We'll just have a fun conversation tonight. And I will show a few clips. We were actually supposed to have on Paul Graves tonight, who does a lot of Bigfoot music. He actually has some pretty good music tunes and that kind of stuff. So what I'll do is I have this video clip I prepared that I was going to play of a sequence we put together for one of the Beyond the Trail films using one of Paul's songs. So I'll play that in a little bit here. Just want to keep kind of going over this stuff. I'm just going to switch my headphones. These ones, they're kind of noise canceling, so it's very weird when I have them on. So let me just pop these out here for a second. Bear with me, guys. I couldn't find my other ones, and I've been using these ones because they're sounds a little better when I'm editing and doing stuff on the computer. So let me just swap this out here. Mic is muted. There we go. Much better. The problem with those ones was I couldn't really hear myself talking, so it was very strange. I was like thinking about what I needed to say, and I couldn't really figure out. It was just very distracting. I haven't used those before. They're just some red ones I have laying around. That the orange ones are my go-to headphones for the show. I just kind of prefer these headphones. But all right, thanks for bearing with me, guys. But yeah, I just want to go over a couple things. So this is show number 98. So we have 99 and 100. 100 coming up is important. 99 actually will be happening on Wednesday night as well. We'll be doing a show this coming Wednesday. I'm not sure. I'm still working on the guest. It's a maybe kind of with the guest. So we'll get that out there hopefully in the next day or so, kind of confirmation. People are saying I'm muted. Can you guys hear me? Unmute your mic. I don't know if people, can you guys hear me at all? Can you guys just give me a confirmation? I know there's a delay. I had the mic off for a few seconds. Hopefully people can hear me though. Just give me a confirmation. I'll check my audio on my end. Let's see. Should be good. Okay. Yeah. I think it was just that little bit of that delay. But yeah, so yeah, I'd seen somebody had said unmute your mic. I think it was that one moment where I started talking before I unmuted the mic, so that's fine. But yeah, so for this Wednesday, like I said, we're working on the guests, and usually I don't do shows Wednesdays, of course, but this is an exception because I somehow messed up the numbers to get into 100. And what's going to happen is we're going to do show 100 next Monday. So a week from today, we're going to have a really good time. We're going to do a kind of charity fundraiser as well as a prize giveaway. So I'm super excited to talk about that a little bit. We're going to be doing something I've done in the past where essentially we're doing kind of a contest giveaway sort of thing. We're going to have a bunch of prizes. We actually have Emily Fleur of the Forest Fleur is going to be donating a few of her awesome products that she has. She has really cool Bigfoot beanies and other useful kind of field equipment, collapsible bucket, really high quality stuff. I mean, those beanies are amazing. It's just these plain beanies. I should have brought one out. They're really, really great for just out there in the field. She's going to be giving away a few things. We're also going to have Scott of the Bigfoot Mapping Project. He's going to be giving away a couple stickers and some other stuff that the Bigfoot Mapping Project has, which is really cool. Super excited to have him and Emily joining. I will also be giving away some CDs and DVDs and stickers and that sort of thing. So what we're probably going to do at this point is have, I want to say, 5 prizes, and one of the prizes might be a sort of bundle with a few items, but there'll be, prizes, 5 different prizes you essentially win. And so what's going to happen is, using the super chat feature that's available on YouTube, you put in a amount of money. So we'll start at probably $5 going up to about 20 or 25. I haven't figured out where I'm going to cap that yet, but the idea being, let's say you put in $5, that puts your name one time into a hat. So we'll be drawing names at the end. So basically, let's say you put $20 in, you're going to get 4 chances to, so there'll be your name will be put 4 times in something. And I think I have where is it? It's like a Wookiee head. So it's kind of fitting for this. It's a Wookiee head bucket. So we'll be putting all the names in there. So throughout the course of the show, we'll be raising money, and essentially all that money, 100%, all of it, I will write a check to a charity. I'm thinking Marlin's Kids. I want to do something where it's involving animals and helping kids. So I'm still on the fence a little bit about that. But I have done stuff with Marlin's Kids in the past. So it's probably going to be one of those similar organizations, but we'll find, I'll let you guys know more. But either way, it's going to be going to a good cause. And yeah, YouTube takes a chunk of that money, but that's fine. Like I said, 100% of what gets donated. So we're hoping to get a good amount. And what'll happen is, at the end of the show, then we'll draw names from the hat. So let's say you put in $20, you have those 4 chances. You put in $10, you have 2. So it's basically, we'll go through each prizes. So there's going to be 5 prizes. So that should be fun. But there's also going to be a general kind of giveaway. What we'll do is, we're going to do a couple trivia questions, probably give away a few smaller things like stickers or a CD or 2. And we'll do some pretty cool questions. Having some folks think of some stuff to ask, some kind of trivia questions, stuff that might not be easiest, but first person to comment on it will win that prize, and that will be sent out to you. And we do have a question about this. Glenn is asking, are the prizes donations open to overseas listeners? So unfortunately for our overseas listeners, I don't think we're going to be able to ship some of these items. I don't know exactly. That's usually, it's way more than it's worth in terms of, sending stuff out. It ends up being quite a bit, especially if it's the UK or Australia or something like that. So unfortunately, it's probably going to have to be just for the United States. Even into Canada, it gets a little bit dicey, but I might try to do something a little bit more like a digital giveaway. Maybe we can give away digital film or something like that. I don't know how to really make that work, but this is all still kind of in the planning stage. So I'm just sort of telling you guys now while we have a little bit of time to talk. Just I haven't done a whole lot of solo shows, so just my chance to kind of talk with you guys and see what's going on. So yeah, so that's the general plan. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have on Emily from the Forest Fleur, as well as Scott, the Bigfoot Mapping Project, probably Eli, and some of the regular crew you see on here will be on. Maybe have a few other folks as well. That we'll just have a conversation. We're going to have fun, and we're going to be raising money the entire time, essentially for charity. So we'll cut the check at the end of that and get that off to charity. And I really like being able to do something like that. And I hope that you guys can just participate. And I think it's going to be a fun time for sure. So that's that. I do. Well, here Kevin Hamilton says, for overseas and Canadian winners, Alex will hand deliver them to your house. I wish. Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be awesome. But okay, that being said, enough about the contest. We'll talk more about it. And obviously Monday night. So next Monday, that's a week from tonight, that is going to be show 100 of my show. And essentially, I'm going to be taking a little break after that. We're just going to do a little hiatus. We're going to be going to Alaska, and I'm just going to be pretty busy basically the whole month of May, and I just kind of want to take a little break from the show. Not that I don't enjoy doing it, I absolutely do. It's just I've been doing it for 2 years straight, so it definitely gets a little tough. Brian says Chewy can make an appearance. Absolutely. What's going on, Brian? Okay. So that being said, I'm just going to take a second to say hey to everyone in the chat before we start kind of moving on. Hey there, Cindy Finn. How you doing? We've got My Eyes as well. Hope you're doing well. You see, we just said hey to Brian, who's our moderator. Thank you, Brian, for being a mod in the chat there. Tate says, okay, guys, time to make this anteater host Alex laugh. Typical. This is your chance, Tate. We will break him. He's saying, oh, my God. We got Kevin Hamilton, who I just said hey to, but hey there again, Kevin. We've got Peggy Curris as well. How's it going, Peggy? Evan, New Hampshire Sasquatch. Hello, everyone. I hope you are having a great night. Yeah, so Evan was on last week and gave us a very interesting report live from the field with a bear sighting. It was definitely a first moment, I think, for live streaming on Bigfoot related topics. It was interesting, but we're glad you're okay, Evan. We've got Glenn H. How's it going? Sandra Piper as well. Rock Kite Man. Nikki, Harry Man, Hoaxes and Hoodwinks. How's it going, Nikki? Let's see, who else do we have? Roger Blair. Hey there. Glenn McPhail from saying good morning from Sydney, Australia. Always love the show. Thank you for tuning in, Glenn. I'm glad it's I know it's morning over there for you in Australia and down under, so welcome. Absolutely. And hello to everyone else in the chat. We've got Rebecca Slick as well. Hey there, Rebecca. Awesome to see you. Northwest Sasquatch Research. JP Stone. How are you? And to everyone else that might just be tuning in, I saw Brent popping in there. Hey, Brent, what's going on? Brent of the Tall Ones, of course. Great stuff. All right, so what do you guys want to do? I saw there was a question. Hey, Sharon. We've also got Ronnie Michael Myers. What's up? Let's see. Deanna Cusumano. Hey there. How's it going, Deanna? Awesome to see you, Deanna Cusumano, Montana, Bigfoot country. Must be beautiful in Montana right now. But I did see there was a question. I think what I'll do is I want to show this clip just for fun. Like I said at the beginning, it's a clip with a song by Paul Graves. It's kind of a music video at this point. It was in our Bigfoot at Bluff Creek film that we put out last summer. And it's just a fun kind of song. And I'll have Paul on eventually, probably this summer when we restart the show up after the hiatus. But I figured I'd just play this clip for now, just kind of hang out for a little bit and show this and maybe some other video clips as well. So I'm going to remove myself and just play this video clip, and I'll be back with you guys in a couple minutes.
Way down in Northern California, there is a place way back in the wild mountains, up a valley with a creek called Bluff. Looking through the evergreens goes on forever, it seems. Found a camp to stay for the night and meet some friends by the firelight. Down at old Louse Camp, you might see familiar faces and shadows dancing about. Way down in Northern California, there is a place far, far away up there, the land the Indians and Sasquatch share. Standing on a lonesome ridge, wind is blowing cold as a fridge. Hear water running down at the creek, I take notice he's staying a week. Down in old Louse Camp, Renee, John, Tom, Roger, and Bob, and memories of others that had no doubt.
All right, there you have it, folks. That was just a fun clip I wanted to show. Like I said, that is a song by musician Paul Graves, who's done a lot of Bigfoot related music, has a lot of cool songs about Bigfoot stuff. And That's just a fun video we had in Bigfoot at Bluff Creek film, which we put out with the Beyond the Trail series over on Small Town Monsters last summer. It came out, I believe it was like, I think it was August, yeah. But that's in there, and Paul was supposed to be the guest tonight. So it's a fun song. It's about Louse Camp, which of course is, for folks that don't know, Louse Camp is in Northern California by Bluff Creek. That's actually the camp that was essentially kind of founded, well, it was founded by loggers, but Tom Slick and John Green, a lot of those guys over the years that have gone to the Patterson-Gimlin film site into that area have been to Louse Camp. Absolutely beautiful area up there. You saw that crystal clear creek and all that kind of stuff, and it was a fun little clip, so I figured I'd share it. Tate says, that's my truck. Yeah, that was indeed your truck. Bigfoot Society Jeremiah says, is that Tate? Yep, that was from Bigfoot at Bluff Creek. Tate expects royalties for his truck appearing. Yeah, I think you should pay me royalties for putting that in there. Just kidding. Ryan, what's going on, Ryan? He says, this sounds like a band that's been always playing in the background, and there's something about Mary. Huh. I'll have to check that out. I'm not familiar with that. Tate says, honestly, my vehicle has become a cast member of Beyond the Trail at this point. Yeah, it's definitely a recurring character, and it has been, especially in the Florida adventures. I don't know what we have to call that. It's got to have some kind of an story arc. The Florida expeditions. I'm not sure. Kevin says, I think the video is just an excuse for Alex to show everyone what he looks like in a Speedo. No, definitely not. I just wanted to show everyone Tate in a Speedo so you guys can be horrified. Kim says that looked like fun. Good song. Yeah, it's a fun tune. Eli Watson, what's the difference between a piano and a fish? And the follow-up, you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. I forgot to laugh. It's that funny. Oh, man. Well, thanks, Eli, for that. Good to see Eli in the chat as well. But, yeah, all right. Let's see. I'm just going to jump into questions. I know there was a question from Peggy earlier. Let's see. Peggy says, question, many people say that Bigfoot are shy about walking in front of trail cameras. Has anyone ever tried to put a trail camera on the underside of a high branch so it's looking down on a trail? That's a really good question. I think it's been done before. I do believe so. I mean, I know there's been trail cameras that have caught animals from a higher position, as in like facing down on the trail or facing down on the animal where they're trying to get the area they're trying to get footage. So yeah, maybe there has been a little bit. I don't know in terms of Bigfooting. Maybe it's been tried, but if it just seems that trail cameras are a complete failure when it comes to Bigfoot, capturing Bigfoot or Bigfoot research. Obviously that is an argument that's used by folks more on the skeptical side of things, that, if Bigfoot did exist, there'd be a lot more pictures on trail cameras and that sort of thing. And I think, while of course, they're entitled to their opinions, I think there's more valid points to look at, such as we know that animals can sense some of the IR, and some of these trail cameras, they absolutely can sense their presence. I mean, I have videos of deer looking directly into my trail cameras. I know other people that have talked about, weird things with trail cameras and things like tigers. This is something I remember Matt Pruitt was talking about when I had him on. Tigers can sense the IR, and in parts of Siberia, they have tried to capture these tigers on video or on photos with trail cameras, and the tigers will attack from behind and destroy the trail camera, never going in front, almost as if they can sense that there's something there. So if those sorts of animals can do it, maybe something like a Bigfoot could. It's a big maybe. Obviously, there's no way to really know that. But if we do look at the amount of trail cameras that are in North America, they've clearly been a failure when it comes to Bigfoot related things. And there are stories. Of course, there are plenty of hoaxes and fake Bigfoot in front of trail camera photos that have come out. Stuff's like a dime a dozen on the internet. But there are a few photos. I think there was the one I've talked about before on finding Bigfoot. I don't know the validity of it or not, but there was one that they had seen deer on a trail camera and something in the background, kind of a large black upright shape that was in one frame and then out of the other. It sort of was moving. So maybe capture in the background. I've heard, of course, stories that people say, oh, I know people who've got a great, like Patterson Gimlin level trail camera photo, but of course you never see these sorts of things. So it's just one of the many tall tales that they're out there regarding this topic and this subject. So take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to Bigfoot, especially online, and try to verify, try to find sources. Or I just was talking to somebody today actually about this trip up to Alaska, and there was this photo that was shared a few months ago of this alleged Bigfoot that was seen, and there was this great story of a Alaskan highway trooper that saw this thing, and the person was so excited. That was the story, and that photo was then sent to an investigator who said, I've seen this photo before, and they were able to track it down to 3 years before, where it was used in a photo to say it was from Minnesota. So people, they are either very naive or purposefully manipulating things like that. And I've seen it happen in other topics, like the mountain lion topic, where I'll have somebody message me and say, hey, this is a photo that I got from somebody I grew up with, very trustworthy. They said they got this on their trail camera, and I'll see the photo and I immediately recognize it, having been perpetuated another claimed mountain lion photo from years past. And you can even Google it and find that exact image somewhere from, out west or something like that. So people do this kind of stuff. The internet is full of these sorts of things. That's why we really stress the importance of making sure you verify and cross-check. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, even a lot of these stuff like with the conflicts going on in the world now, there's a lot of fake photos flying around of people claiming things, and then it turns out it's from another source, or misrepresenting what a photo is. And there's these apps, and I can't think of them right now, but there's this one site where you can actually, it kind of searches the metadata of a photo and can show you when it was maybe first used or what site it was first used on. A lot of people are able to track down photos that way. So it's pretty cool kind of tool. Gosh, what is the name of that one? I've used it before. If I remember it, I'll pull it up. But yeah, awesome question, Peggy. Thank you. And I think the trail camera debate will probably keep raging. It's just one of those things. I mean, trail cameras are great for what they're intended for. I mean, I love getting wildlife on trail cameras. I've gotten moose and bear and deer, no porcupines, but I have gotten turkeys and all the other kind of smaller critters around here in New England, but no porcupines for whatever reason. I haven't gotten any porcupines on maybe just the places I usually position them. I try to put them kind of on a more of a game trail so we can get moose and those sorts of things. But porcupines are not that hard to find. You can find their dens. It basically, you'll find maybe a rock overhang or somewhere with a small cave, and you'll see a ton of peanut shaped crap scat all over the floor, all on the outside. That's usually the telltale sign of a porcupine den. They crap where they eat, literally. So trail cameras are interesting, but don't seem to be very fruitful when it comes to Bigfoot. At least that's what it seems to be so far. So New Hampshire says it's more of a noise that they put off with all animals. Yeah, there's that noise. And some trail cameras, you can actually even hear them. I've heard them before. It's like frequencies you can hear from the trail camera. Tate asks, when and where did you join the PDG? I was actually inducted right at the Patterson Gimlin film site. And it's just kind of like an inside joke. That's one of these things that we have when we're out filming, and we just kind of mess around. And the behind the scenes stuff, it's a lot of fun when you're out camping with your buddies. Tate also says, fun fact, Alex has a funny story of how he got a free trail camera. I actually didn't end up getting a trail camera. Eli has it. He I think he's going to deploy it and look for coyotes on his family property. I don't know, but Tate gave us a free trail camera. We'll leave it at that. Tate, you can tell the story sometime. Kevin says, my cousin's trail camera caught 2 grizzlies, several black bears, cougar, coyotes, and wolves. No Bigfoot so far. That is really cool. Any moose on there? Man, I forgot that up in that Alberta and up into Canada in that area, you guys have all of the big critters. You have the moose, you have the mountain lions and grizzlies and black bears. Whereas in Alaska, they don't even have mountain lions. They have all the other stuff, all the other insanely large moose and grizzlies, but at least we don't have to worry about mountain lions when we go up there. Rock Hype Man says, I noticed occasionally that debunked photos resurface online every few years, more like every few weeks at this point. I mean, there's one that's been floating around all over the place lately that I've seen from years ago, and they just resurface all the time, and new people get into the topic and will repost these things and thinking it's innocent enough, but it's been debunked. And it just gets really frustrating for those of us that are in it for a while, because I got that thing sent to me recently, the one where they said, oh, the Finding Bigfoot team has been deployed. I've got that thing sent to me 3-4 times at least. People claiming, oh, this was in Connecticut, oh, it was in New York, oh, it was Kentucky. So it's just a viral kind of hoax thing that just keeps happening. There's really no way to avoid it. I mean, we can debunk these photos all we want, but they still resurface because there's going to be those people that obviously aren't aware of that debunking. Northwest Sasquatch Research, what is going on? Says, I and a friend have been conducting experiments with trail cameras to establish if they put off any EMF, sound frequencies, or odors. Right on. Awesome. Yeah, I've heard of people using the trail cameras to sort of see if they put them up, does activity stop? I have heard that in terms of people that claim that they have Bigfoot activity on their property or near it, that they put these trail cameras up and stuff stops. I mean, whether that's true or not, obviously I can't confirm or deny. Amy Speaks Nature says, hey there, Amy, how you doing? Outback Orchard says, put cams up on or around apple trees in the falls. You'll get porkies. Don't ask me how I know. Yeah, there's good old porcupines, huh? Porcupines are fun. I've gotten them on thermal footage, though. I got this really awesome video thermal footage of a porcupine, baby porcupine, running in front of its mom or dad and seeing the mother or the father, whatever it was, coming right behind it, kind of catching up to it slow, and the little thing was running around like a little mouse almost, but you could tell it was the shape of it on the thermal. It was maybe 15, 20 feet from me, so that was really cool to see at night with the porcupines. Cindy Finn asks, is there a way to mark them as debunked? I mean, I don't know. You can say it a million times, but somebody's always going to find a post, and there's a million different Facebook groups and ways that these things with social media get spread around. So I don't know how it's possible to do that. We just got to do our due diligence, I guess. And every time we get that sent to us, correct that kind of claim. Hey there, Francesca. Northwest Sasquatch says, at this point, EMF is not a factor and sound is incredibly minimal outside of activation. We have noted that the petroleum plastic housing of most cams do emit an odor, attracts bear. Yeah, that's one of the things that bears, there's a lot of synthetic chemical smells that appeal to bears. I think even stuff like formaldehyde and other things that are used in insulation in fridges. And that's why actually a lot of campers, they'll get like something breaking into your fridge. If some of these rural properties I've heard where bears will break into people's homes and go for the fridge because that actually smells like honey to them, or ants, I believe. Actually, I think it's ants, and I could be wrong about that, but I have read that before. So that these things maybe have a smell, but I mean there is evidence to show that they do produce sound. I mean, like I said, especially I would definitely read up on those tigers in Siberia. There was a Korean researcher, there's the book on it, which I can't remember, of course, the name, but they talk about trying to get photos and videos of these things, and they would just find their trail cameras destroyed from, scratches coming from behind the tree. So this thing completely avoided it and went in and destroyed it from the back. Ryan Smith, he says, photo metadata viewer. That's probably a good one. Tate asks, question, how many trail camera photos / videos do you actually have? Like in general, of all the stuff I've captured? Hundreds. I mean, I don't know. It's just maybe 8 out of 10 of those are the tail end of something leaving, or when it gets activated by wind and that sort of thing. Depends on the trail camera. I use a few different kinds. Like the ones we use down in Florida, Tate, obviously, we captured a lot of videos of moving trees and that sort of stuff, and not exactly what we were intending to capture. Rock Kite Man says, several years ago, the late William Dranginist used an ultrasonic leak detector to show some kind of camera-produced sound that was inaudible to humans. I wouldn't be surprised. I actually knew William Dranginist. Very untimely passing a few years ago. He was a fantastic researcher, very, very serious guy, did a lot of work with the government, was an inventor, invented different types of camera systems, had a whole van rigged, I think in the late 90s. yeah, he was a sad one to lose. I got to know him the last few years of his life because he was into the Lake Champlain monster research. He was doing that topic, and he was in a film I did on Champ, on the Trail of Champ. This film back, I just dropped the DVD. It fell behind the thing. It's a bummer. But either way, William was really cool, and he did a lot of cool stuff. His encounter was really interesting. His encounter has been on a few TV programs, I believe. I don't know if maybe Monster Quest or even before then, but it was in the 1990s. He was metal detecting Civil War battlegrounds near Culpeper, Virginia, with three off-duty FBI agents. They kind of got together and liked to go look for Civil War relics in obviously Virginia, which was a state that had a lot of Civil War history and battles. And so they were out there and they had some kind of an encounter with a Bigfoot and they saw it. And some of the agents actually were armed at the time and were nervous enough that they drew their weapons. So definitely look into the work of William Dranginis. He was a great researcher and absolutely untimely passing. Ryan says bears love the taste of lithium batteries. Yeah. I haven't heard that, but I'm not surprised. There's just a lot of the chemical kind of stuff that we use, and arsenic. Yum. Tate says, I guess the only way to do damage, sort of speaking and saying a photo is a hoax, is on national TV, but lots of TV shows hoax anyway. So that's kind of a dead end. Yep. Yeah. I mean, most of the stuff you see on TV is not legit. I mean, there's plenty of that sort of stuff. New Hampshire, Sasquatch says the bear that almost sneaked by your camera on that fallen tree. Yep. So yeah, that time I was out with Evan, we set up a trail camera on this log that was going over a creek, and I thought it was just a small log. I thought I'd get maybe some foxes, some smaller critters crossing, but just got the tail end of a bear, and it was gone. I mean, I basically have a second of it, just the butt, and it was gone into the woods. So not much there. Tater Anonymous says, do you have any plans to do a follow-up documentary for Lions of the East? Would be cool to include Florida Panther track. Yeah, at some point. For now, obviously we're doing a lot of the Beyond the Trail stuff, which is heavily Bigfoot related. And frankly, doing those films, I just kind of get a little exhausted in terms of the filmmaking side of things. Like, they are a pretty intense endeavor. I will at some point. I like the mountain lion topic a lot. It's always been one of my favorites, and I really enjoy, finding stuff like the Florida Panther, other evidence. Olympics in Washington found mountain lion tracks, and other places found, or possibly had mountain lions around. So we'll probably at some point follow up on that. Kevin asks, is this episode blurry to anyone, or am I? Excuse me. Is this episode blurry to anyone else, or am I just having a stroke? I hope you're not having a stroke. Maybe it's like the curse of Bigfoot. Bigfoot is blurry, so maybe I'm becoming blurry too. To be a true Bigfooter, you have to be blurry yourself. Rock Kite Man says, Alex, I was at a Bigfoot conference in 2008 or 2009. I actually listened to the detector. The sounds detected was lowered to human hearing range. It actually sounded something like bees buzzing. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Well, there's a whole thing about frequencies. So I remember we used to do this back when I was in high school. We would download these apps, or on the computers, we would, you can go to these websites. It's a frequency tester, because they say as you grow older, you lose frequencies in your hearing. So what we would do is in our like science classes or something like that, we would put all these frequencies on, and essentially they're like, the really low or a high pitched kind of sounds, extremely not unpleasant, right? Just like a little buzzing almost. And you'd start high and then go to low, and you start really high, where most people, especially us that were high schoolers, we could hear it at the time, but usually our teacher or anyone that was like over the age of 30 could not hear. And you'd go down to see how many people, and then you'd get to some frequencies, certain people couldn't hear them, certain people could. And that's actually, if you have stuff like tinnitus, or if you've gone to a lot of concerts, you've done shooting without hearing protection, shooting guns without hearing protection, you can destroy some of those frequencies. And that ringing you hear in your ears after something really loud goes on, that's, I think that from what I've read, that's the death of certain frequencies in your hearing. So It's pretty interesting, and something that maybe isn't exposed to that might have better hearing. Now, apes aren't particularly well known for excellent hearing as compared to other wildlife or other animals like dogs and other creatures that really have keen hearing. But if you lived out in the woods your entire life, your hearing would probably be a lot better than if you live in the way we live now with modern lifestyles and that kind of thing. Absolutely, would be better. People that probably live in remote villages or very rural kind of areas in outside of the Western or modern world probably have better hearing than people who aren't people who do live that sort of lifetime. That's just my guess. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to kind of make sense. Laughing Picker, how's it going? Slim Pickens says most of the beep on TV and YouTube is hoaxed. Yeah, that's just it. I mean, it's either extremely contrived or exaggerated or completely just totally faking it just for views and clicks and that sort of thing, or ratings. Obviously, when it comes to TV and some of the streaming platforms, it's just about ratings, and it's just keep people's attention for a little bit and that sort of thing. So it's unfortunate. Lions of the East says Lions of the East was great. Thanks. Coin says get so many grovel over these fake personalities. It's just the way it is. People want to be entertained, right? People, millions and millions more, grovel over people like the Kardashians and other Jersey Shore and these absolutely, in my opinion, stupid people and stupid shows. It's like junk TV, right? It's like junk food's not good for you. Reality TV is not good for you either. It's like junk TV. It's junk programming. It's an indulgence, right? Maybe you enjoy watching, entertaining, but are you really going to learn a whole lot from it? Probably not. Northwest Sasquatch research says, I think the best opportunity for a good photo or video is to stage cameras along fast-flowing river corridors. All the airflow and sound may provide a masking effect for any camera systems deployed. Yeah, that could be one technique. Absolutely. There's just so many different things you could try out, but that probably is one of your best. But I guess the only thing you'd really have to worry about, depending on how you had it positioned, was if it was motion activated or sound activated, you get that water, might set it off. It depends on the trail camera. Some are way better than others. Some are extremely bad trail cameras. I've used just a few types. I'm by no means really expert in trail cameras or anything like that. My eye says it's interesting to see which animals seem to notice trail camera IR light. Foxes see it. Fisher cats don't seem to notice. I had a moose that was studying it for about 10 minutes. It was funny. It's really cool. I'd love to see something like that. Yeah, I've had deer just doing the same thing where it's like the moment the IR goes off, they kind of get freaked out and look right into it and are sort of looking around. And let me see if I have a clip. I might have a clip on here. No, I don't think I do on this computer. Seeing if I had any of those trail camera clips to show you what I mean, but yeah, it's fun to kind of get wildlife. I just enjoy getting any type of wildlife in on a trail camera. New Hampshire Sasquatch says let's buy a couple pounds of catnip and put it in the woods for those mountain lions. Yeah, you better put it somewhere where there's no chance of house cats getting there, because I think you're just going to get house cat craziness, tons of them. I mean, people get those things out in the woods, people that let their cats out, or it could be a stray. Those guys live out in the wild as well. Kaiju Ninja says, Alex, what is your scariest wildlife encounter? Is there a scary encounter that may or may not be Bigfoot related? Yeah, I mean, most of them are not Bigfoot related, probably, in terms of wildlife encounters. Scariest one, oh gosh, that's a good question. The most, I guess a nerve-wracking one would be, and I've told this one before, I was camping in northern Maine in summer of 2020 with my brother. We were in way northern Maine, and we're talking like an hour north of Mount Katahdin, where the pavement ends. So you're really in the middle of absolutely nowhere. That whole area is owned by logging companies. And northern Maine, and Maine in general, has the largest moose population outside of Alaska in the United States. So we're talking 70,000+ moose. I mean, the moose are basically deer up there. Your chance of seeing moose are extremely high. So my brother and I were camping along this riverbed, and the night before we had heard some kind of crashing noises in the woods, and we didn't know what it was, and have a thermal or anything like that on me. But it was about 6 a.m. The the sun was just kind of out a little bit. It just kind of started coming out. So there was light, it was visible. And I remember my brother waking me up saying, "Hey man, do you hear that?" And we start listening, and you can just hear this stomping on the ground, and the ground starts shaking. And then we see the silhouette go over the tent, and there's this huge figure go by the tent. And then another, maybe a few seconds later, another figure runs right kind of after. I couldn't see the silhouette of that one, but you could just hear it. Whole ground is shaking. And I'm like, this has to be a moose. I mean, and I hear them go down to the riverbank and start splashing around. There's mud and all that sort of stuff. And I'm gripping a 12 gauge saying, don't come in the tent here. And then I was trying to, as quietly as I could, unzip the tent just so I could kind of look out, and I couldn't get it. The zipper was stuck. I'm like, oh, come on, this is the worst time. So I sort of just ripped the bottom of the tent, the cover, the rain cover off. And I ripped that open. I stuck my head out the bottom just to see. And I'm looking directly at this huge mama moose that she turns and looks at me and immediately just hightails it across the river into the other set of trees. And you just hear just like a dinosaur running off into the woods. That one was a little nerve wracking just because we were laying on the ground in the tent. We were just sleeping. And it was a very, very awkward way to be woken up. It's like you get woken up by someone screaming in your tent or something going on outside your tent. It's a little, especially if you're depending on how deep of a sleep you are, it's a little disconcerting when that happens because it's a state of shock and you may be more panicked than you might be otherwise. But I just was just glad they didn't come in. It was cool. It was a cool experience once it was all said and done, of course. And I love seeing moose and other wildlife, but from a comfortable distance. So that's probably the most scary one I can talk about. And it wasn't that was scary. It was just more of like the adrenaline started pumping right away because it was like, holy crap, this thing is right here. And you could see it. And then we had the tracks going through camp and down where the mud was, and they sank right in. And there was some beautiful, huge moose tracks. So they're very large animals, of course. Back to the chat here. Tate says, when I had Cliff on my podcast a few years ago, he said he was working on doing call blasting with infrasound. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, definitely. Infrasound, there's still a lot we just don't know about it. It's a very, very interesting topic because it's just something, it's one of those things I think a lot of people are seeing as believing kind of things, whereas this is something that you cannot see. You can't grab it or study it. It's just you can study it, but not, physically. You can't feel it. I guess you can hear it, but not audibly. But it can affect humans, of course. It can affect mood and disposition and feelings of anxiety, even nausea, perhaps. I mean, they've done experiments with using infrasound at concert sort of settings before. Anyway, Jay Fritz are talking about the frequency stuff, so I can't hear crap anymore. Lots of times, though, I just pay no attention. Oh, there you go. Stefan, what's going on, man? He says, thoughts on the Gloucester sea serpent. It's an interesting story. I don't know if it necessarily was a real creature, but especially the descriptions, it was 200 something feet long. It was essentially seen in the, oh gosh, I'm going to mix up my dates now. I believe it was the 1860s, I think. 1860s, 1870s. There have been other reported sightings before that. But hundreds of people off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts, supposedly saw this 200-foot long serpent-like thing with multiple humps in the bay there. And yeah, it's a very kind of famous cryptozoology sort of story. And what were they seeing? I don't know. Maybe there was a real animal, but there was sort of a hysteria that got drummed up from that happening. And I've heard speculation that maybe it was whales that had harpoons stuck in them and they're dragging barrels, so it creates that effect. And seals, of course, people, especially at distances, are not very great judges of distance and detail. And water, especially water, throws people off when it comes to that sort of stuff. It does a lot of weird stuff, water movement, waves, that sort of stuff. So it's a fun story. I don't know. I haven't looked into it in quite a while. I do have a book on it by a guy who wrote kind of more about that cultural aspect of the stories that were associated with it and the general mood in the time. This was before, of course, television and anything like that, before video or film, anything. So people's perceptions were definitely different then. Let's see. Moving on. Mark Webster says, "Hey, question. What are the origins of the wood knocking theory?" That's a good question. I actually do not know. I've heard people say Matt Moneymaker was the one who kind of popularized the idea. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I do believe there are some stories that John Green had that were wood knocking related from prior to the 1990s. So, yeah, I don't really know, actually. That's probably something I should look into. But, having heard things that I would describe as wood knocks, which I mean can be there's a lot of things that can explain wood knocking that people might hear. But there's certain ones that you hear that are just extremely strange and unusual that I can't say what produced them, but I just find it very odd at certain times. But that's a good question. I appreciate that question, Mark. Slim Pickens says, I think the thing with mountain lions is that they are way smarter than most animals and for the most part completely nocturnal and deadly quiet, so they come and go without being seen or heard. Yeah, I mean they're cats, right? They're it's people that have house cats. So take a house cat and make it larger and make it one of the apex predators in its area for the most part. They're absolutely smart. Felines are very smart animals. They slink around and very sneaky and silent. So, and that's of course an adaptation they have. So, definitely makes sense. Rebecca says Northwest Sasquatch Research. That's how I got my first bobcat video. He was distracted from crossing the creek. Cool. That is awesome. Slim Pickens says my scariest was definitely with Sasquatch or whatever the heck it was. Interesting. Stefan, it's good to see you, man. I haven't seen him in the chat here in quite a while, so awesome. Stefan says, we just passed the 45th anniversary of the first reported sightings of the Dover demon. Lauren Coleman investigated the reports back in 2007. Any thoughts about the cryptid today? That's a really interesting story, guys. For folks that don't know the Dover demon, it's one of these kind of staples of cryptozoology, if you want to call it that. Fun story. Yeah, and knowing Lauren, he coined a lot of these terms back in the day, stuff like the Bridgewater Triangle, other areas. He coined those terms. And Dover Demon as well. And it was an isolated sighting. I mean, there was a series of sightings over the course of a few nights. Well, actually, Lauren Coleman, to correct that, Lauren Coleman investigated them on the scene back in 1977 when that actually happened. Was it 1977? Gosh, I believe so. Yes, it was 1977. Sightings April 21st and 22nd of 1977. And what it was, I don't know. People have talked about it being an alien. People talked about it being a moose baby calf that looked very strange. A lot of strange explanations. I have absolutely no idea what it was. I've actually been to that place before. I actually used to work 2 towns over from there. Dover, Massachusetts is a suburb of Boston. So that was definitely an interesting story. I'd look it up, guys, if you're interested in more of other cryptids or other strange stories. A lot of theories, but it was just funny because it was only seen those 2 instances by high schoolers who all kind of independently drew the same sort of creature, the bulbous head. It almost looked like a gray alien kind of crawling on the ground. That's sort of the description for folks that might know what those classic sort of aliens with the big heads look like. But what it was, I don't know. It was intriguing. But aside from that, it has never really been seen. Anything like that has not been seen in that area. So it was a very isolated incident. Okay. My eye says, Alex, there's a story in version 1 of the Koa's Trail book when it first opened of a moose stumbling onto a guy's tent where he set up right on the trail. Can you imagine? Yeah, I would not. I would not like that to be me. I was talking about that moose story earlier. Definitely was a close call, but it was, like I said, it was fine afterwards. Chris says moose tastes good. I've actually never tried moose. I think we talked about this recently. I would like to try it at some point for sure. I have tried elk. I think elk is delicious, and buffalo, one of the best meats you can get. Bison, so American buffalo bison, really, really good. So Pickens says the big Bengal tiger is used infrasound. Yeah, that's something that's been seen over the years. Ronnie says this could be far-fetched, but could the Gloucester serpent have been a line of seals? Yeah, that's also possible. I think I mentioned either seals or whales or something that create those humps. And I've seen it in lakes. I've never seen it in the ocean where you'll get boat wakes. I think lakes because they're more of a controlled environment compared to the ocean, where you'll get waves that can actually look like humps. You'll have, it's called convergent waves, where you'll get, let's say, a boat wake from a few hundred feet this way and one from half a mile, as they are moving together, they will converge, that create these sort of, and especially depending on the lighting conditions, it could be dark black humps, or they can glow in the light and make it look like, oh, that's the back of a creature coming out. So a lot of those lake monster sightings are actually are definitely just people not knowing what common water phenomena looks like, things like boat wakes and ripples and that sort of thing. Chris says, I use lithium batteries all the time. Chris Spencer, what's going on? He says, I use lithium batteries all the time. Nothing has ever touched a recorder or a camera. I've gotten plenty of pics of bears as well as audio of them. I put alkaline into a camera and that's mauled. Interesting. Yeah, I know. I've seen that Chris has this really cool video of this camera that we actually set up when we were with him in the Olympics there. And it was a few weeks later or a few months later when you got the camera, and it was this bear started chewing on the trail camera. It was pretty amusing to see that. Unfortunate for the trail camera, but definitely amusing. Kaiju Ninja, what's going on, Tristan? Says, what are your thoughts on the Mokele Mbembe? Do you think it's possible the dinosaur could still be alive? I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty far-fetched for a dinosaur to be alive. Even in places like the Congo, as remote as they are. There's been stories that supposedly a lot of the translations for the Mokele Mbembe were done by early European kind of missionaries in the area, and that they may have misrepresented a little bit of what those natives in those regions were saying. They kind of considered it more of a, well, I mean, they just described it as having this sort of long sort of trunk-like thing. Maybe it was there are elephants in that area. Maybe it's that, or some kind of other animal that exists in those areas. I don't know about dinosaur. I haven't looked a whole lot into the Mokele Mbembe. I'd like to go look for it someday. Probably die in the process though, going to the Congo, deal with diseases from mosquitoes and getting kidnapped, civil wars, all kinds of crazy stuff going on in those areas. All right. I'm catching up on the chat here. There's a lot of people talking about Lauren Coleman, talking about Dover Demon, talking about those yeah, there you go. So as I was saying earlier, yeah, Chris says, as batteries degrade, they give off the same smell as refrigerators do, the anthill formaldehyde. Yep. So it's the ant hat. And that's why you get those, you look up videos of bears breaking into people's houses and they'll, go for the fridge or that sort of thing. I think also some types of insulation have something like that. I'm not sure. Slim Pickens, have any of you, maybe a little bit older than me, ever heard of the Dewey Lake Monster? I have not heard of the Dewey Lake Monster. If anyone has heard of that, be curious to hear more about that. I have no idea. Maya says, Coas Trail starts north of Mount Washington and ends up by the Connecticut Lakes. Yeah, that basically goes to the Canadian border. And that's the wildest region of New Hampshire. That area is essentially right near Moose Alley, which is the road that goes up there to the Canadian border, where it has one of the largest concentrations of moose in a single area that are just sort of that exist there because there's that region between Canada and Western Maine and part of Vermont, and there's just a lot of moose in that area. If you guys have seen the show Northwoods Law, they go to that. They've gone to that area before. I think there's one episode where they were in Coas County, New Hampshire, and the hunter shot a moose. I don't know if he was from Canada or from the U.S., but either way, the moose, in the process of dying, crossed the border, so they had to contact the other country to basically have the agents come out and get this moose and drag it back over to I think it was the U.S. side, I do believe. So Fish and Game called the Canadians, and they all went out together and got the moose because it was a legal kill, so the guy deserved it, and they gave it to him. Just a kind of a funny story. Moose didn't recognize the border there. Joe, what's going on? Of Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group says the Iroquois man I was friends with never said anything about Otneyar. He I don't know if that's the name, doing wood knocks, but he did say some could speak Iroquois languages. Take from that what you will. Yeah, one of the Abenaki people I know here in New Hampshire has also said that they speak the Abenaki language. So I don't know what's up with that, but as he said, take from that what you will. Those people obviously culturally have different beliefs about Sasquatch or the way it fits into their culture. I don't know. If they do have a story, I mean, some tribes have a pretty in-your-face kind of Bigfoot story. Others are less directly Bigfoot sort of esque, but I think a lot of modern Bigfoot people will put that story and kind of force it into the Bigfoot narrative. Okay. Let's see here. It's kind of weird because I'll like answer a question, then I'm trying to catch up to the chat, but it's like a 4 or 5 minute old conversation in the chat. So let's see. I'm going to get to a few more questions here. Squatch Happens says, question, anyone have an experience with Bigfoot or any animal emitting a flash of light from its eyes during the day as if it blinked and it was a quick flash? I have not. If anyone has, be interested. I have seen flashing, glowing lights in the woods during daytime that I initially thought was something unusual, and through following up and researching, actually found out that it was just light reflecting off of wet leaves, and it was crazy. I couldn't believe it when I went, because the light disappeared. And when I got to it, of course, there's nothing. But another time, about a year or two after that, saw this while hiking in the White Mountains, and I actually bushwhacked to the spot where this light was, and I found it was a wet leaf. It was water droplets pooled into the, or actually it was like a pine tree, so they're kind of hanging there. But I could not believe it was emitting that bright of a light. I mean, we were talking, it was flashing red and orange and blue and purple and all these colors, and it was just crazy. And then I took a video of it, and the iPhone made it look even crazier than it actually was. So it was just cool to be able to figure that out and come to that sort of conclusion about, hey, this is not something unusual. If you do your due diligence, disprove your own weird experiences if you can, and there you go, there you have it. And that's just something I learned about. But obviously that had nothing to do with Bigfoot, really. Just thought it was kind of relevant, the flashing light sort of thing. Glenn H asks, if you could interview Albert Ostman, what would you ask him? I don't know. Obviously, the Albert Ostman story is pretty famous when it comes to Bigfoot. I don't know what I would ask him. That's kind of a funny question. Because I mean, you talk the people like John Green and others that looked into that story, the folks that got to interview him. I mean, I feel like all the questions I really have would kind of be answered. I mean, was it the truth, I guess? But then obviously, how if you ask somebody that, they're probably going to tell you, yeah, it was. Whether or not it is, I don't know. I really haven't looked into that story in quite a while, but it's obviously a good one. And was it really Sasquatch? Was it a tall tale? I don't know. Projecting light from one's own, I would almost be blinding. Biological beings from Earth don't work that way. I think you're dealing with something different than Sasquatch at that point. Yeah, I have no idea. Joe is correcting and saying, or he's kind of letting me know what that was from the last comment. It says, Otene Yarhead is stone giant or stone coat, their name for what we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly either, but that's fine. I figured it was something along those lines. I didn't know. But I appreciate you for kind of letting me know about that. Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff. So, guys, we just got over an hour here. I'm going to show a clip here from our upcoming Bridgewater Triangle Bigfoot Beyond the Trail film. Figured might as well just show the clip here. It's about 4 minutes long. I was planning on showing it, and I'm glad that we had questions, all that kind of stuff. So I'll show this, and we'll come back for a few more questions, and probably going to wrap it up and do a little bit of a shorter show tonight. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to exactly say that. All right, here, let me take one question though before. Mark Webster says, if you got invited to go squatching with Todd Standing, would you go? That's a tricky one. Maybe. If the guy charges like what, $3,000 for people to go out there. Obviously I wouldn't do it in that case, but I might do it. I mean, if there was, the offer stood like, hey, do you want to go squatching with me or go with Todd Standing? I would, because some of those areas he goes to are really interesting. And I know from folks like Kevin Hamilton, who's in the chat, has talked about being from that part of Alberta, especially Justin Chernopesky, who's in some of those same areas, that he's kind of been able to disprove a little bit of that sort of stuff from Todd. So in a curious way, I think I might. I don't know if he would be able to give if he was able to kind of take a little bit of prying, I think maybe we could ask him some tougher questions. I don't know. Maybe it would just be really sketchy. I don't know if I'd go alone. I'll put it that way, especially in Canada where I can't have a gun with me. If I'd probably go with Eli or somebody else, somebody I trust, just in case it got weird. Because it is a little strange, going into the woods with a stranger. You tell most people that for Bigfooters it's relatively normal, but you tell other people outside and they think that's kind of weird. That's kind of sketchy. Aren't you worried? So I don't know. I mean, I don't think Todd Standing is legit, but oh yeah, free of course, yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't go to especially if he was doing some film or something like that, and he's trying to use our name like he's done with other people. I've heard with Meldrum and even Bindernagel and others, these kind of use their sort of words to kind of promote himself. I wouldn't do that. In a perfect world, if I had a chance to just go out to Alberta and see, kind of, because I'm curious, because the guy is obviously so controversial. Yeah, I'm sure Justin would take you out to those spots. He's always armed. Exactly. So I'd like to go with somebody like Justin, because as an American, I can't. Canada isn't the most lenient with taking that kind of stuff into the woods, so I don't think I wouldn't want to be out there without somebody armed. Yeah, as Northwest Sasquatch says, never go to the woods with a stranger without a firearm. I agree. I mean, my general rule of thumb, I don't talk a lot about the firearm stuff a lot, and that's mostly because of YouTube. If you guys know, YouTube isn't exactly very friendly with that sort of stuff, and we talk about it in the basis that it's something a lot of people take out in the woods, whether it's to deal with animals or wildlife or just in case kind of thing. It's just another tool. It's another tool in my toolbox. Like I'll bring out my thermal camera, I'll bring out my cameras, other survival gear, and firearm is always it, especially in a place like Alaska. I mean, we're going up there now, and we're obviously going to be packing heat, so to speak, for obvious reasons when you've got gigantic monster moose and grizzly bears and that sort of stuff. Mark says, just to tell the stories and seeing him blab on forever, I'd do it. It'd be entertaining for sure. Yes, yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't want to do it in a capacity that would support kind of his craziness, like either monetarily or by being able to use that to get his image out there or something. I'd be conflicted with doing sort of a documentary about that, unless it was a sort of expose or something. I don't know. But most likely I wouldn't do it. But there's a part of me that says that would be kind of intriguing, right? Let's see, Rock Hype Man says Todd Standing or Carmine, Thomas Biscardi or Rick Dyer. Be afraid, be very afraid. All weird guys, all kind of creepy. Do you want to meet them alone in the woods? Probably not. So yeah, that's enough said about that, I guess. But yeah, let me show this clip, guys. It's from the upcoming, like I said, Beyond the Trail Bridgewater Triangle documentary, which is a lot of fun. It's covering the stories of Bigfoot sightings in the Bridgewater Triangle of Massachusetts. And then it also has a big true crime twist, because that area, you can't talk about the Bridgewater Triangle without mentioning the weirder stuff, the paranormal stuff, the crazy crimes and things that have happened out there. It's just part of that lore or the story. And, not saying it's real or anything. And you guys will have to see the film. It's going to be coming out, I think, next month on YouTube. And it's just covering that and the sort of interesting stories revolving around the Bridgewater Triangle. And this is just one sequence. And I will say, for folks that are a little squeamish, it might be a little disturbing. There's nothing visually disturbing. There's just some talk about some things that have happened out there that are a little disturbing. So I will probably play that clip in a minute here. Richie Son says, sup. How's it going, Richie? Mark says, have you seen the video of a YouTuber going out with him with Todd Standing? I have not seen. I've not seen that. Maybe there's been multiple YouTubers. I don't know. I don't know how he operates and that kind of stuff. But Joe says, just going by my experience as a template, I think Todd may have actually encountered at least one. The rest is questionable to me. I'd go out with him with a group of people I know. Yeah, that's a little bit different. So. But anyway, enough about that. I know it's obviously, it's interesting because people have a lot of questions. A lot of people ask about Todd Standing. I mean, people make bold claims like that without, much to kind of put behind it. But that being said, I'm going to play this clip for you guys, about 4 or 5 minutes long, and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit. So enjoy the clip here. And like I said, some of the stories are a little disturbing because these are not Bigfoot stories, but they are, you'll find it interesting. So here we go, guys. See you in a few minutes. While reports of monsters from the Triangle have caught the attention of many, whether fabricated or not, the real monsters of the area might just be human. The Freetown Fall River State Forest in particular has been dubbed the most haunted forest in America due to its connection to heinous crimes committed amidst its trees.
So the Freetown Fall River State Forest is a state forest reserved land that is located partially in Freetown, partially in Fall River and Copacabana Reservoir land that also skirts Dartmouth. So it kind of encompasses a few different communities.
You can be in New Bedford or the city of Fall River or the city of Taunton, and in 20 minutes you can be in the state forest and you're in the middle of nowhere. It tends to draw in strange people. People do want to hide stuff from drug dealing to stolen cars to even major crimes like homicide. It's a dumping ground, basically, including human bodies.
The people that do believe that the Bridgewater Triangle is this entity claim that the negative energy that the triangle emits draws in the bizarre, strange crimes that happen in the Freetown State Forest. And there's been a long history of that kind of thing there, ranging from mob hits of people leaving bodies in there.
We found a newborn baby. It was in a trash barrel off the side of 24. And during the autopsy, they indicated that the baby was alive when it was put there and died from exposure. And the baby wasn't more than 24 hours old.
Very famous case in 1978, a guy named James Cater had abducted a girl from Raynham named Mary Lou Arruda. She was a 15-year-old girl, kidnapped her while she was riding her bike. Months later, she was found tied to a tree and had been sexually assaulted and murdered, and she was found in the Freetown State Forest. That's probably the most famous murder to have happened in the Freetown State Forest.
That one really affected me, and I was the first officer on the scene, and I had to stay there and rope it off and wait for everybody else to show up. So I was all alone in the forest with a dead body, and that kind of sticks out more than anything else, I would say.
Right around that same time is when the whole satanic cult murder case happened in Fall River, which is a city bordering Freetown. And that case involved the murder of 3 prostitutes from Fall River who were allegedly part of this satanic cult.
The murders actually took place in 2 in Fall River and 1 in Westport. But their rituals took place in the state forest.
That same cult was allegedly conducting their rituals out in the Freetown State Forest. But none of this stuff has ever really been substantiated as far as the connection between the Freetown State Forest and the Fall River satanic cult. But around that same time, some evidence of ritualistic sacrifice started popping up in the Freetown State Forest. They would find the remains of animals inside of pentagrams, birds, goats, whatever. And at one point in the late 90s, they found a dozen baby calves that were butchered in the middle of the woods. Now, whether that was the work of a cult or not remains to be seen, but these bizarre occurrences of animals being mutilated and killed have been popping up in the Freetown State Forest for a long time. So you throw in the rumors of satanic worship and the mob hits and the abductions and people being lost out there in the suicides at the ledge. You throw all that into the melting pot, and the Freetown State Forest has developed this lore as this haunted location.
Just a creepy place. If you go in there at night, you can't help but feel very, very uneasy. I don't know, it's just got a strange vibe.
Bristol County, Massachusetts. You had, first of all, Lizzie Borden, Bristol County, Massachusetts. You had the Fall River cult murders, Bristol County, Massachusetts. The Mary Lou Arruda case, Bristol County, Massachusetts. You had the New Bedford Highway murders, Bristol County, Massachusetts. You had the texting suicide case. They made the series The Girl from Plainville, that big, huge thing. That happened in Bristol County. The Aaron Hernandez case, the Patriots tight end, that happened in Bristol County, Massachusetts. I mean, it's not that big of a population in Bristol County, Massachusetts, but we have this inordinate amount of these really high-profile cases that have come out of this region. There's really not much of an explanation for it. Some people, of course, will blame the Bridgewater Triangle.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. Little creepy for sure. I know it's fascinating, the whole Bridgewater Triangle story. I don't know what it is. I mean, it seems mostly conjecture, mostly urban legend, myth spun around into this narrative, and now it's kind of its own thing. I do think some of the Bigfoot stories there from the past are pretty interesting. I mean, there's one in particular in which a police officer in 1969 or 1970 claimed that there was this rash of sightings in that area, and that he was on patrol one night. They were looking for what they called an upright bear, and that he actually reported his police squad car get picked up and lifted up by something that he saw in the glow of the brake lights as being hairy, picked up the car and dropped it. I mean, which most people can't do that, especially not at night in the woods with a gorilla costume, and bear wouldn't do that. So there's a really interesting history there of Bigfoot sightings in the Bridgewater Triangle, but then there's all this other weird stuff that I'm not necessarily into, more in the UFOs, the ghosts, lots of haunting stories, lots of the cult, this crime stuff. I'm more into true crime. So that clip I showed you guys is kind of a little bit more along those lines, because this documentary it's covering the Bigfoot topic, but also, like I said, you cannot talk about the Bridgewater Triangle without mentioning any of that other stuff that's kind of associated with it, whether or not it's real. I mean, that's not at all saying it's real. It's just the Bridgewater Triangle is real in the sense that it has become an ingrained kind of sociological thing for humans. I mean, people go there. People go to the Freetown Forest to go ghost hunting and do all this creepy stuff and hike and do this sort of thing. And there's a spooky vibe. A lot of it is just because of the history that's been there, right? And that's sort of the theme of the film there, is that, yes, there are stories of monsters in this area, but the true monsters are human beings, which I think is universally, when we talk about Bigfoot, it's a big, scary thing, but who are the real monsters in the world? People. I mean, look at all the horrific crimes, murders and genocides and all this stuff that's gone on. Us human beings, we're the bad ones, really. I mean, if you think about it, what Bigfoot is bad because it's just scary looking. I mean, I'm not saying it's some gentle forest friend that we all need to cuddle around. It's whatever it is, it's some kind of an animal that can potentially be dangerous, like lots of other wildlife. But humans are the most probably monstrous, I think, of all things. Monster is perhaps a misnomer for these sorts of things. But yeah, that's why, like I said, that's why I wanted to show the clip. It's kind of been a fun one to work on. I'm really fascinated in the Bridgewater Triangle because it's just such a small area, so many weird stories wrapped in one. There's really not many places that have that level of insane things going on, including those crimes, all in the same sort of area. Joe says, I was just watching something about the Bridgewater Triangle before I got here to watch Alex. Oh, cool. Yeah, it's just one of those things that, like I said, it's just a cultural phenomena, and that doesn't mean it's real. It's just real in the sense that I think most of it is urban legend. It's taken onto a life of its own because people built it up. Pack the can, have it, yeah. You're going to hear a lot of Boston accents or Massachusetts accents in that film for sure. I think majority of the people we interviewed have a pretty thick accent. Ronnie says, Cindy, I live 10 minutes from it. I've been having my ex-GF take her SUV back in there at night. Yeah, I know, kind of in that area. But Richie says, my niece goes to school at Bridgewater. She's minutes from the Freetown Forest. There's a Facebook group on the Triangle. Yeah, I think I'm a member of that Facebook group. Just a lot of weird stories from that area. You go around and just talk to people, gas stations, restaurants. They'll tell you, oh, yeah, we heard about the cults. I've been down there in Fall River and talked to people in a seafood shop a few years ago, and the owner was like, oh, I don't go up into the woods anymore. I've been up there and I've seen people in robes walking around. Creepy stuff. I mean, we ran into those Satanists in the Mount Hood Wilderness in Oregon this past summer when we were up there, and it was really, I don't know if they were Satanists. They were some kind of weird people. Cindy says, I'm intrigued, but I don't want to live anywhere near there. Yeah, I mean, our mod, Brian, actually lives right in that area. That's sort of his neck of the woods. Him and I went hiking there this past Friday, and there's this cool road called Copacut Road that you can drive through, and it's pretty rough. It's got a lot of huge puddles and holes, and a lot of people take their off-roading kind of rigs there as like a mini off-roading thing. So it's just a fun place to kind of hang out. It's a nice forest. I mean, just knowing that there's been a lot of pretty disgusting crimes and heinous things that have gone on there is a little kind of disturbing. So, sounds like a nice town, Bristol County. Joe says, see this cult stuff in the forest makes me consider going out armed, not Sasquatch, although I admit I'm a little afraid of Sasquatch. Yeah, well, I mean, you've had an experience that you claim is a Sasquatch, so for you, that's not really a question whether or not these things are out there. But I think for others, I'm just speaking for myself. I talked about my moose encounter and other encounters, but definitely the scariest stuff out there is the humans and, stuff we've seen in some of these stories, even down in the Green Swamp when we were down there with Matt, Central Florida Bigfoot. Hearing the stories about Ron and other people experiencing really weird running into road people out there at night. That's just, humans are the creepiest people out there for sure. I would only go in there armed. Yeah, well, you probably won't have a chance to because Massachusetts has extremely strict firearms laws. So you probably wouldn't be able to go in there unless you had pepper spray. I mean, I don't know. The regulation's just really bad. I'm not trying to get into that stuff, but don't come from out of state there with a gun. You can get in a lot of trouble. Just the way it is. Richie says, looking forward to the new doc. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Alex or Tristan asks, Alex, have you had a UFO sighting? I have, yeah. And when I say UFO, I mean UFO by definition of the word. So unidentified flying object. What it was, I don't know. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my life by far. Basically, long story short, I was in a place in Pennsylvania where there's been a long history of weird stuff going on, kind of like the Bridgewater Triangle, but not that extreme. But a lot of people report weird stuff there. I was there with Paul, and some other folks that I know from the New England area. They're more into like UFOs and that sort of thing. And they kind of brought me out because there was Bigfoot stuff going on. It was just a trip to go to Pennsylvania with some buddies and have some fun. So yeah, we decided to go, and I went 2 years in a row that I've been. And the second year we went, it's 2019. I'm actually going to pull up the article from my website. Let's see if I can get this open here. I've got to kind of dig back a bit. Let me share my screen. Sharing screen. Okay, here we go. So I'm on my website, Pedicov Media, right now. I'm going to go to the blog section. I'm in there now. I have to go back to my UFO sighting over DuBois, Pennsylvania, 2019. That is the photo of the object, and I'll play the whole video, but I do want to just show you guys. I have the whole thing written up if you guys want to go check that out. It's got all the details and all the stories about everything there, but essentially this is what we captured on the night vision recorder. But we saw this object right after midnight show up in the sky over this area of this rural part of Pennsylvania near DuBois, and there was a completely no clouds or anything in the sky. Actually, go down to this photo here. Let's see. I can open this tab and look at this photo. So this is essentially kind of layout. But we were just looking at the sky, and I noticed this would look like the best way I could describe it is a cloud with a light in it, just slightly meandering through the sky. It was almost like a leaf in slow motion. That's what I've used to describe it. And it was just going through the sky, and I realized that it wasn't the moon or wasn't anything like that. It was actually moving. It was moving it away. It was very weird how it was kind of meandering through the sky. And the other folks started seeing it as well. And there was about 5 of us total that witnessed this, including the dog. So I don't know if that really counts, but besides the point. So there's 5 humans there that saw it, and we essentially watched this thing, and we watched twice multiple smaller, and this was like the large object was undefined. It was a sort of blob cloud-like thing, like a illuminated cloud is the best way I could describe it, just like a singular cloud. And we watched these smaller lights fly out of it, around it, and back into it. I mean, it was unreal. And we were just kind of freaking out. We didn't really know what we were looking at. Those smaller objects, they were more defined. They were like balls of light. I'm not going to say orbs because I don't know what they were. They were just sort of smaller objects. They were hovering around it or sort of just flying in that, it looked to me like it flew out of it and flew back into it. That's at least how I've described it. And this is a diagram of what it was. And essentially this is the negative. So this was the original one. The original photo looked like this. or the original video. Actually, Paulino recorded on a Best Garter night vision unit that that was laying around at the time that he had just gotten. So we didn't really know how to use it very much. But yeah, we kind of, I actually had the camera I had at the time was a Canon 70D, and I had a 10 millimeter fixed lens on it that was, I couldn't zoom or anything. I was doing star photography because it was such a clear night. It was great. I like doing astrophotography. I've done a lot of that in the past, and that's what I was doing. And I didn't feel like leaving this site to go get my other lens back at the house. I should have, but at the time we were just kind of perplexed. Paulino runs back, grabs his night vision, just starts recording, and I'll play that video right now. I think I can full screen it here. Yeah, there we go. So this is just, it's in the negative. And what you'll notice is these, you have this object, and then their second object floats with it the entire time, which is pretty crazy. And then it kind of becomes like one object. I don't know. At least that's what it looks like on the video. We've had somebody look at it that is an astronomer, and they were kind of perplexed by it. Mark, oh gosh, he has an astronomy channel. I'll have to remember the name of the channel, but he does some pretty cool stuff. So this is the video, and it just kind of floats along. It was moving very slow pace, absolutely slow pace. And it's just, it almost looks ball-like here. And I do have the original video somewhere. I and prep it for tonight. I didn't think we were going to talk about this, but I do have it like on a hard drive somewhere. I'd have to dig for it. The negative just made it look a little cleaner. Not cleaner, but it just makes it look better. It just kind of inverts it. So now it almost, here is almost peanut-like, or not peanut shaped, like a candy, the wrapper on the side, but it's like a solid object. I don't want to prime you guys. This is just my observations of it. And it kind of goes over the horizon. And then I think we see it a little bit more towards the end of the clip here. This is, trying to find out where, yeah, so I think he got away from the trees and you could still see it. And then he was zoomed in, and this is the first time he'd ever used that night vision, which was kind of funny. Pretty exciting time to use it. Oh no, I just exited the whole screen. Why does it do that? It didn't let me, there was no option to leave the full screen there. Let me try this again. All right, here we go. I got it open on another tab. I want to go back to that photo. So this is just kind of how I have it labeled. So this was the main object, and then this was the smaller object. That is a star, and if you watch the video, you can clearly see that stays stationary, whereas this, for a time, moves completely simultaneously to this larger object. So, yeah, so that's the story. I mean, it was unusual. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was aliens. Maybe it wasn't. I cannot make that claim. I have no clue at all. Some of the guys I was with are more into the UFO topic, and they've been looking at it for a while. And they said it was the craziest thing they've ever seen. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I mean, it completely could be of this world. Maybe it's some secret government technology. We don't know about it. It was just very bizarre. We did see, actually, after it went, at the end of that clip, a few minutes after it kind of disappears in the horizon, we did see like a light. It was like something out of Star Wars, go from right to left, just zip through the sky, like one of those hyper drive kind of scenes in Star Wars or something like sci-fi like that. It was very unusual. And I'm not into UFOs or really any of that kind of stuff. I was there because there was a lot of interesting Bigfoot stories, and people like Eric Altman and Sean Forker and others have investigated Bigfoot encounters at that very property we were at and around the surrounding region. There's Rockton, Pennsylvania, which has a history of sightings there. So that was what I was interested in. I honestly, at the time, I could care less about the whole UFO and other weird stuff that was being reported there. Like some of the locals talked about seeing unmarked black helicopters, kind of like a trope for a lot of these sort of weird triangle areas, as they call them. So I don't know. I wasn't really interested in that. And that's what we ended up seeing. And the second night we had a really bizarre incident with this strange sound. And I guess I'll just talk about that real quick, but it was around the same time that second night, we were kind of all getting ready. There was a few more people that had joined onto our group, and we were getting ready to go to sleep. It's like 1 a.m, and we were staying in this downstairs apartment in this home that the homeowners had. We were all in the garage, and I had a bunch of my gear, camera gear and stuff on this table. And the door was slightly open to the basement. And there was a guy in there just sort of hanging out, getting ready to go to bed. And the bunch of us were out in this garage, and this high-pitched C-tone sound, like a bee, just came on. And immediately we start looking around. Oh, like who activated something? And I was joking with Paul. I'm like, oh, did you step on something? Because there's a lot of stuff in the garage. Like, oh, there's something going off. They were like, oh, is it any of your gear, Alex? And I said, no, it wasn't any of my gear. I mean, none of my stuff makes that kind of a sound. This is a weird layout. And we looked around, and there was nothing. I mean, we were looking at the washing machine. It was like, sounded like it was in the garage. And then it sounded like it was outside. So we all went outside and we started recording it, and we have the audio of it. And it was almost around the same time. It was it was actually right after midnight when we saw the object the first night. This was the night after that we heard the sound. It was around 1 a.m. And the sound was in the sky. It sounded like it was above us. And it was just this C-tone kind of sound, very, no change, didn't go up or down in sound. It was just a solitary beep. And I have the recording of that somewhere. I wish I'd known we were going to talk about it. Otherwise I would dig all this stuff up for you guys. But we heard that sound, and yeah, it was unusual. And it was almost like it was moving. And then I remember it went over this kind of forested area to our left, and the sound just cut. It didn't fade out. It was beep, like there was a hard cut. And we have multiple phones recording at that point and recorded the sound. And we've had some musicians and other people listen to that, and they're like, yeah, that sounds more mechanical, because if it was some sort of natural sound, I mean, even like something like a Himalayan or one of these like Tibetan singing bowls, right? Like I have one here. When I whack this thing, it'll go and it'll fade out eventually. You hear it kind of like fades out. It'll fade. It doesn't just go from like that's a hard cut. It kind of was that we had heard the sound. Was that related to this UFO that we saw? I have no clue. It was just a very unusual thing. And obviously we have the audio of it, but visually this thing was just very strange to see that night before. And I maintain that it was just truly a UFO by definition of the word, which simply means unidentified flying object. Doesn't mean it's alien. Doesn't mean it's interdimensional. Could be from this earth. Absolutely. It was just one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And I like to think that I'm pretty well versed with aerial phenomena, because I've flown a lot in my life. My grandfather used to be a pilot professionally and flew jets all over the world. And, I learned a lot about that kind of stuff. I fly drones a lot. I've seen a lot of drones. I've seen a lot of the things that people typically think are UFOs in certain conditions. And this was truly one of the weirder things that I've ever seen. Just the way it acted, like no aircraft. I used to be really into military aviation, that kind of stuff as well. And as folks know, I mean, the UFO topic is obviously really popular now, and there's been a lot of government admissions with this kind of stuff. But they're the technology they have is a much further ahead of what we're aware of. So is it possible that it's something like that? I really don't know. But that's my UFO story. You guys wanted to know it. So there's the UFO story and all that's with it. And I welcome any questions or anything about that. It's just a weird thing that's happened to me. Like, I'm not really into UFOs particularly, even though I live in New Hampshire, where it's some of my favorite places to hike, up in Franconia Notch in the White Mountains. That's the site of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, that sort of stuff. But I've never really been big into that or ghosts, even though there's a lot of that stuff here in the New England area, a lot of ghost stories, Salem with the witch trials, obviously like the Bridgewater Triangle. We're talking about UFO stories left and right, but that's not really just been my thing. I'm not generally into paranormal stuff. Bigfoot and cryptids are sort of more where I gravitate towards. But yeah, there was nothing Bigfoot related that happened during that trip when we saw this thing. That's just what we saw. And and if you guys want to see, I mean, I think I can post, I'll just post this link if you guys want to read the report. I'll post it in the comments or in the chat here. So I'm sending the link now. If you want to go read the blog post, I wrote that up at the time. It was like in June. Yeah, it was June, end of June. So this happened on May 24th. So I'd written it up initially. And then I think once I made sure I was okay with everyone else that experienced it, because a lot of people don't want some of this kind of stuff getting out there, we just kind of put it out at that time in full transparency. But yeah, that's the UFO story. So it was weird. Absolutely weird. All right, let's see, what are people saying about it. Slim Pickens says, I've seen a whole bunch of beep I thought were UFOs until I did enough research. There are only 4 things that I can't explain, except Sasquatch, that is. Interesting. Brian Chu says, out there, I'd be more afraid of people at night. More afraid of people, but at night, I would have to see how I feel in that Freetown Forest area. Yeah, Freetown Forest, man. Yes, Rockhead Man, it is a negative image. So that first image, it looks the same. It kind of pops a little better, easier to see with the negative. But if anyone's really curious, I mean, I could send you the original video if you'd want. It's interesting. Mothman 46 says it was the Predator mothership, and they're saying I see Pedikov down there. Let's skip this hunting season. That's good. That's pretty funny. Kim Perez says it sounds like a legit UFO sighting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, just by definition of the word, I make no claims as to what it was or what it could be. I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. It was interesting, though. Was anything visual to the naked eye that did not record on the camera? Yes. So, like I said, the camera, by the time we started recording, this was after these things had flown around it. It was like around or in it. That's kind of how I would describe it. But we started recording. The whole sighting was maybe only around, 5-10 minutes long. So we were watching this thing for a while. We kind of noticed it, and then we started actually all like watching it in the sky. And then it wasn't until a few minutes after that Paul we didn't even notice. He just snuck back to the house because we were out in a field, in a big open field. He ran back to the house real quick and grabbed the recorder, and that's why you see kind of the tail end of it as it went over the horizon. That's the last we saw of it after that end of that clip there. Pretty accurate to what we saw. Nothing really like stuff flying out of it happened there when we were filming it, but you can see this object paralleling. I did not, from the angle I saw that blob still floating. I didn't see this object going parallel to it like you can see in the video towards that end there. Yeah, thanks for asking me the question about that. It was definitely interesting. Grasshopper says it's Bob Hieronymus dressed as UFO. Possibly, man. Kraz, it's Tate Hieronymus dressed as a UFO. Yeah, Tate's been he's been keeping tabs. Richie says is keeping tabs on A.V. Loeb's Galileo project out of Harvard. Could also help Bigfoot research. Important to investigate Bigfoot as possible UFO or paranormal related outside of wild animal or intelligent. Yeah, possibly. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are more into the woo side and, paranormal, supernatural, Sasquatch. I don't know. I haven't really experienced anything personally that kind of leads me down that way. There are other weird things out there that I don't know how to explain. And we don't know how to explain Sasquatch either, but I do just find it kind of interesting. Kind of looking at the whole UFO topic now, the way it's in the mainstream culture, how you have a lot of mainstream sources and media, news, whatever, talking about this topic, the Pentagon and others releasing information about it. But I think the world's so crazy right now that wasn't a front page story, like they made it seem like it would have been in the X-Files or something. It was kind of took a back seat to all the other insanity going on. Kim asks, any military bases in the area? Have you seen the YouTube videos of clanging metal sounds in the sky? As for military bases, not that I'm aware of, and I know people claim that there were some former military bases in that part of Pennsylvania. This is, if you look up Du Bois, it's sort of western central Pennsylvania. It's close to the center, but it's not really way to the west. It's kind of in that in-between area. Look it up. Maybe there is. I don't know. I'm not aware of any. We heard stories of people saying, oh, there's a former missile base here, and locals, and a lot of conjecture about possibilities. But Pennsylvania has a lot of these other weird UFO and other encounters, Kecksburg and other incidents out there. But so I don't know about those UFOs. Joe says, I should look up more. Maybe I'd see a UFO. Hey, you never know. I mean, there's weird stuff in the sky, and not like it has to be alien. It can be just very unusual. There are some really strange weather phenomena. There was that recent one in Alaska. It was a contrail. And I know people who live in the town where that happened in near Palmer, Alaska, and they said it was contrail. But people said, oh, no way. That's just the cover story. It looks like a crashing alien craft or something. You know how it goes with the internet. Roni A, how's it going? Says, question, I'm new to your channel. Have you had a Bigfoot sighting? I have not. I have no claims of any visual Bigfoot encounters. I've had encounters that maybe possibly could be Bigfoot, but I cannot prove that, of course. I'm not going to kind of fill your guys' minds with the ideas that that's, the wood knocks and the stuff I've experienced is definitely Bigfoot. No, I mean, I don't know that. I didn't see the thing, right? So there's no way for me to confirm that. So I have not had a sighting. But I appreciate the question and thanks for tuning in. Brian and Chewy says, Squatch, smash the like button and leave a comment for Alex or Chewy. Absolutely. Leave a comment for Chewy. Definitely. I know YouTube's changing up their algorithms and there's all kinds of stuff. So if you guys like this stuff, leave a comment. Let us know. Smash the like button. We're just having fun with it. So why not? Let's see. Papa Craig says, I like to lay awake out in the meadow in the wilderness night and watch for UFOs. I've seen one or two. It's pretty interesting. There's a lot of, when you're in those wilderness areas and you have no light pollution to deal with, you can see some really amazing stuff in the sky at night. It's pretty awesome, actually. I thoroughly enjoy being in areas without heavy light pollution. Like I said, I do a lot of astrophotography. I did when I had my other camera set up where I had the better lens for it than I do now with my Sony. But I love doing astrophotography. So whenever I'm out in the wilderness, try to do that kind of stuff. And yeah, I've seen a couple other weird lights in the sky. One of them in Willow Creek, California. Two of them, I guess. But they were just so far away. I don't think it was nothing like this. This was just very unusual. One of the weirdest, like I said, one of the weirdest things I've seen. Heather Buck says, hi, Alex. I love your videos, every single one of them. I've learned a lot from them. So I thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I mean, I'm glad you learned something from us. I mean, we don't claim to be experts or anything like that. I don't think there are really, it's a bit cliche. There's no Bigfoot experts, but I think there are experts within Bigfooting. So you can be, an expert in setting up audio. Maybe you're an expert in a particular region. You know those sightings. Does that mean you're a Bigfoot expert, like a biologist would be a seal expert if they're a marine biologist? They know the anatomy and the body of how a seal or a sea lion works. No, obviously we can't do that with Bigfoot, but there's certain areas that you can kind of that some people are more valuable than others. I think in terms of Bigfoot, people that are hunters, people that carry other knowledge about the woods and how certain things work. So definitely, hopefully, we just try to educate people a little bit about the wildlife and the wilderness. And my goal ultimately with a lot of that stuff is not only to kind of showcase some of the local Sasquatch stories and hopefully find some kind of evidence that we could pass on to somebody way smarter and more qualified than us, but also getting people out there, inspiring people to get out into some of these natural areas. I think that's like with the Beyond the Trail series in particular, that's a big goal for sure. I think that's really important. One of my favorite things to do, just go out in the woods and just hang out. So Mothman says, you probably have very little light pollution in the Shire. Yep, there's definitely some great areas up here, especially up in the mountains. There's certain, some towns, yeah, it's even, I think the cities here are a little bit smaller than other places. I mean, New Hampshire's population is only 1.3 million, so it's really not a lot. So there are definitely a lot less light pollution than, say, like the New York metro area, where it's bad, or most big metro areas. So, yeah, there's some good spots up here for sure. But I've been places out west, and I'm sure when we go to Alaska, we'll have some really crazy star opportunities. Just if it's clear enough, of course, to see it. Really awesome. Just it's really cool seeing that kind of stuff. New Hampshire Sasquatch question: are you still cuddling with that track cast from the location? No, it's I have been. I'm just kidding. No, the track is secure. I have it in a box wrapped up with some of my other track collection. I have stuff that was passed down to me from researcher John Horrigan, a lot of Bigfoot casts from Larry Lund, who did a lot of replicas. I have one of them back here on my bookshelf somewhere. I think I've shown on the show before, which is a second-gen Patty copy from the Patterson-Gimel film. So it was a direct copy from an original cast, which is pretty cool. So, yeah. It's a good one, though. I like that track. Obviously, it's pretty cool. Hey there, Squatch Talk. What's going on? Hope you're doing well. Joe asks, hey, Alex, do you have any plans to do any collaborations with Steve? I can't speak tonight. With Steve Culls again in the future, maybe? I may catch up with you again. Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, I love the Adirondacks, that area and around Whitehall especially. I mean, we're going to, I think at this point, I don't know when it is. I forget. The Whitehall Bigfoot Festival. That's where I met you, Joe. That's a fun event. We go camping up there to the area, we got those things kind of thrown at us in Vermont in the Green Mountains. We always like to go there before we head to Whitehall. But yeah, I always love working with Steve. I mean, we've done stuff with him in the past with like the On the Trail Bigfoot stuff with Seth's film about the Adirondack region specifically. But I'd like to get out there. We went out. I think we talked about it on last week's show, Joe. We just went out for fun, just squatching with Steve and those guys near the Poultney River. Some of the areas that go right behind where the original Abear Road sightings happened during that time period in the 70s. So Steve's a cool researcher for sure. So yeah, definitely would like to do something again in the future. Pharmacy Seeds Network says Whitehall is a beautiful area. The whole Lake George region is gorgeous. It really is. And you have Lake Champlain, the end of it, right in that region too. And that's one of my favorite places to go for the Champ stories, because Champ, the lake monster, is kind of my favorite cryptid. Bigfoot's my favorite to research, I guess, or kind of look into. But Champ is just I've got a special place in my heart for lake monster stories. As implausible as some of them might be, I think Champ is a really fascinating one. And that Whitehall area is right where the end of Lake Champlain is. So that whole area between that part of Vermont, you got the Green Mountains, and then around Whitehall, there's a lot of cool spots. And obviously there's a long history in that area. So Heather says, I'm from the Green Mountains of Vermont. Awesome. Yeah, I love going up there too. I mean, I do have a preference, obviously, for the White Mountains of New Hampshire, just because they're more rugged, and I've hiked all the mountains up here. And Brian and I have both hiked, the 48 4,000 footers up here, and we're actually going to go hiking, hopefully this Friday or into next week. Before I go to Alaska, I want to get a good hike under my belt. So Brian and I went hiking this past Friday, like I said, in the Freetown Forest. So we were in the Bridgewater Triangle area, and definitely we'll do some White Mountain stuff. But the Green Mountains are awesome. I love going there too. So what's nice about New England, you have a bunch of areas. You can get up in Maine within a few hours. You can go to Vermont. You can be in Whitehall. I mean, Whitehall's only like 3 hours from me. Lake Champlain, Burlington, Vermont's only 2.5 hours. Freetown Forest is like an hour and a half for me south. So in either direction you go, the White Mountains is only about 2 hours. A lot of these directions you go, you have a lot of stuff. So it's nice about New England being sort of a smaller area. Squatch Talk asks, will you ever come back to Georgia or giving up on it? We'll definitely come back. Yeah. I mean, it was just we had a rough go at it. We had just come off of being in Florida and doing a bunch, being in the woods for such a long time, and hanging out with Matt, Central Florida Bigfoot, and Stacy Brown and those guys. And it was just our tail end of the trip, and we got destroyed by 3 days of rain in North Georgia. I like the areas. I mean, we were driving through and it was pretty cool. It reminded me a lot of some of these areas in northern New England, the Appalachians. Obviously it's the same mountain chain. It was similar, but very different. There wasn't snow. I mean, in January, the White Mountains and the whole state up here and northern Appalachians just covered in feet of snow. I mean, some of that snow doesn't melt until July on some of those higher peaks in the White Mountains. But so there was some familiarity and some definite differences too with North Georgia. But we'll definitely go back there, and we'll have to link up then for sure, Pat. When that will be, I don't know, but I'm hoping to go to Tennessee at some point in the summer. So Tennessee, North Georgia, it's kind of those mountains, they obviously kind of stretch into when they get towards the Smokies too. There's a lot there. So let's see. What else is going on? Ronnie asks, please no offense towards women on this question. Oh boy. I've heard this before, but I indicate the validity on it. A woman on her monthly cycle, can animals, bigger game sense that or pick up on that? I think so. Yeah, I've heard stories that they can. I think Leon, who obviously we're hoping does better or is doing better, Leon Thompson has talked about, I think when I had him on, oh gosh, must have been at least almost a year or two ago at this point when I had him on, he was talking about they were up in the Canadian bush and they had a woman who was on her cycle and there was like a crazy bear in the area. I think, yeah, bears and predators can sense that. I've heard other stories, but nothing I can really think of the top of my head right now. But I mean, it's blood. Like it's very, very potent kind of smell. So you can imagine that those predators, they can sense blood from miles away. So the way the scents work and all that stuff, much stronger smell than us. We've got Pharmacy Seeds Network. New Hampshire is gorgeous. Yeah, it's one of my favorite places. It's awesome. It is absolutely love New Hampshire. Winter, it can get a little rough, a little annoying, but for sure. Pharmacy Season Network also says New England is awesome. I lived on Vancouver Island in New England. Trums BC by miles. Diversity. Yeah, see, that's the thing. You know, a place like BC is probably extremely beautiful. I still haven't visited. When we were in the Olympics, you could see across the ocean. You could see, or the bay or whatever it is. You could see Vancouver Island. So it was really cool being able to see it. But it was during the height of COVID and everything. So it's like you couldn't go over there. I'd love to get to BC just to see some of those beautiful areas. There's something special about being out west, wherever it is, if it's the Southwest or the Rocky Mountains or Pacific Northwest or Alaska that we're going to. It's just, there's a different vibe out there than out here. Everything's here a little bit older. You know, people have been here longer. The mountains are they're not as crazy rugged as they are out there. There are some great expanses of wilderness out here, but it's nothing really compared to out in like the Pacific Northwest and especially heading up towards Alaska. But definitely beautiful. Papa Craig also says, yeah, you guys have some beautiful country up here in the Northeast. It rivals our Oregon, Washington beauty, in my opinion. I do think it's interesting. It's it's like a mini Pacific Northwest. And I've heard this from multiple people that are from that area that think, oh, there's no real mountains on the East Coast. And they're like, oh, the Appalachians are foothills. And they come out to a place like New Hampshire, they go to Mount Washington and they see this stuff. And they're like, this is really reminds me of the Pacific Northwest. So we do have a little bit of that in the Adirondacks. I mean, it's just some really rugged places. These habitats that support thousands, 70,000+ moose, which are monstrously large animals. So there's some great, if we want to use the term squatchy, I think that term would be appropriate. Luma Nathan says, Alex, did you hear that account from Connecticut on Sasquatch Chronicles? No, I did not. I don't really listen to Sasquatch Chronicles. I have in the past, but there's obviously issues with the host there, and I don't know. I think it's kind of a lot of it's the same. It's just a lot of witness stories. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but I did used to listen to it in the past, like way back in the day. But I don't really listen to a lot of Bigfoot stuff. I guess I listen to a few live stream shows that I'll tune into, but I don't really do a whole lot of listening or watching Bigfoot stuff outside of what we do, really. Richie says, hiking in Alaska scares the crap out of me. I was in Alaska a decade ago. If you're doing the Portlock inland, then be careful. So many miles of desolation help us far. Yeah, we're not doing Port Chatham. That obviously is, it's been done a lot. And there's the Alaskan Killer Bigfoot show, spooky, which is complete crap. Obviously, it's TV. It's all fake. And if you want to kind of learn more about that, check out Larry Beans Baxter of Alasquatch. He's written a really good book on that. And it kind of sums it up. It's on the one hand, you have the extreme skeptical kind of scofftic type people will say, well, there's never any Bigfoot stuff that happened there. Maybe, but some of the natives and the people that live in that area do talk about, some kind of a hairy man there. Oh gosh, what's the term? I don't remember the native word for it that they call it there. Nantinak or something like that. But on the one side, you have it's all BS. Then on the other side, you have, Bigfoot was murdering people and ripping people's heads off. And it's like, where have you, that would be a very isolated story, violent kind of encounter like that with murders going on. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. And I think Larry Beans Baxter's book is pretty good on the topic. He talks about, that there were supposedly sightings of strange things in the woods, but the town was abandoned for almost completely economical reasons. People did die due to machinery getting crushed by logs. I mean, horrific things. Like people died like that in droves back in the day, 150 years ago, when, safety protocols, it was a rough existence being out there in a completely wild wilderness. So, but that aside, we're not doing Port Chatham. We are doing something on, I can't say a whole lot about it, but the Kenai Peninsula, and we're going to be in a very isolated location that has a really interesting history of activity. So I'm actually been talking to some folks about possibly doing some eDNA kind of collection. So trying to learn a little bit more about that because I'm no scientist, anything like that. So I prefer talking to the people who actually know what they're kind of, they have actual expertise in academia and that sort of stuff. So Mr. Lee says, I'm just saying, if you look up, you see more unusual stuff, man. Yeah, the sky's weird. The tree's weird. You can see maybe animals right above you that you didn't even know, because we as humans, when we're out in the woods and the trail, we're just tunnel vision, kind of focused on what we're doing. Pharmacy Seeds Network says, we had snow here in the Catskills on April 19th. yeah, they still get snow up in the White Mountains and sure in the Green Mountains a little bit now too, even though it's been getting warm everywhere else. Squatch Talk says sonic boom in the North Georgia mountains today. Oh, that's interesting. I'm sure that probably a lot of people heard that then, huh? That'd be really curious. I'm gonna have to look that up. Sonic boom because of what was it? What was it caused by? It was it like a tectonic plate shifting or what was going on? I'd be curious to know more, Pat, if you know what happened. Chuck Gonzalez asks, Australia in the future, nice type of Bigfoot out there, mate. I'd love to go to Australia. I've never been. I don't know. I know they're like, as a country, it's a little bit difficult to get in, but I don't know what's going on with Australia nowadays. I'd love to at some point. I'm sure we'll do it. Australia, South Africa, we've got a lot of stuff on my radar. My dream trip would be the Himalayas to go look for the Yeti. That's the first thing that ever got me into Bigfoot when I was younger, the story of the Yeti. So that would just be something that would be a lot of fun to look into. Splash Bordeaux says, hi, Alex. Any plans to go to Canada for expedition? If yes, would you prefer to go? Yeah, absolutely. I think I was saying Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Harrison Hot Springs, those areas, the places where like John Green and some of those guys, the old, the greats and all that sort of stuff, they were there. Those areas just beautiful. Just love to spend some time in those mountains there. At some point, just there's a lot of places I'd like to go, but limited time, and you go to other spots. And so Pat says confirmed sonic boom was from a spacecraft. Oh, that's pretty cool. Was it like some kind of a rocket or launch or something like that? Richie says, we just need an indestructible cube in the woods surrounded by meats like a forest shark cage. Put Alex and a camera inside. Oh my God. That reminds me of this documentary I saw. I think it was either in Russia or it was somewhere in Canada where those guys were going to film polar bears and they'd put them in this glass enclosed case. And I think they did have meat or something in there, or it was just them. They were the bait, and these polar bears were trying to break in, and these guys had GoPros all on it, and they were filming it. It was crazy watching these humongous polar bears trying to break in. I mean, geez, absolutely scary. Would not want to be in there. I've done shark cage diving, but that is it's a little different. It was fun. It was cool, I gotta say. ZB says, I solo hike a lot, but I guarantee you that I will not solo hike Alaska. No, sir. Yeah, I don't think it's that good of an idea in some areas. So, yeah, it's just like not a good call overall. I've done solo hiking. I've done some of the stuff like Justin Chernopesky does. Like he does some really crazy solo hikes out there alone. I've done some stuff similar, but up here in New Hampshire, and yeah, I don't generally prefer to do it just because you are in a really vulnerable spot, especially in a place like Alaska. We're going to have, we're doing some pretty intense hiking into some areas, and it's going to be Eli, myself, and our buddy Ron Reed, who's been in a few of our films, and he's like a total badass hiker, dude. He's hiked the whole Appalachian Trail. Really good guy. Lockbeard says Sasquatch hoaxer, lol, couldn't care less. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure there are legit stories on the show, people that have told their stories, but you get to that point where maybe there's also stories that are just kind of made up just for the scent. I'm knocking stuff over on my desk, just for clicks and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I'm not really interested. Nikki says, you better watch me. Well, I'm doing the thing again where I'm trying to catch up to the chat. I'm probably going to start wrapping up here soon, guys, but let's see. Have high-powered mags for grizzlies. Yeah, I'll have a 12 gauge out there. That's the most reliable when it comes to grizzlies and big moose and that kind of stuff. Slugs, buckshot, mixture of the two. Definitely good stuff. Definitely good stuff to have out there. I mean, bear spray too. Probably have some bear spray. But yeah. New Hampshire Sasquatch says, I've heard of some activity over in Nova Scotia. Ever think of going there? I've heard a little bit. I haven't heard a whole lot. But yeah, probably check it out. I've never actually been up to Nova Scotia. I've heard it's beautiful, the Bay of Fundy in that area, and it's a bit of a ride from here in New England, but I've never been up there. Snowman Dave says 2 days ago they were snowmobiling East Inlet, Pittsburgh, New Hampshire. That's right. Yeah, up there in Colas County, man, they get a lot of snow. They had some snow recently too, and like I said, especially in the mountains, they definitely have still a lot of snow. In places like Tuckerman's Ravine on Mount Washington, I've been sledding up there in June, And my brother goes up there. He used to go up there skiing in June and July. It's like 80 degrees out, and you're skiing in these snow fields because there's just so much snow. It just all accumulates over the course of the winter. And winter up there starts in like October. So Pat says SpaceX Dragon reentry from the ISS. Oh, so that's what it was. He says, I felt a shockwave to my bone. It was about 80,000 feet above me. That is crazy. Wow, that is absolutely nuts. I mean, I can only imagine. Obviously, Elon Musk has been in the news a lot lately, so to speak. I'm going to start wrapping up here soon, but I will take a few more questions. Chuck says, when cooking in woods, have you noticed any sounds on certain food aromas? No, not really. We do our thing. We cook steaks. We cook all kinds of stuff out there. But yeah. Well, guys, I think I'm going to start wrapping up. It is 10 o'clock. I didn't think I was going to go this long for the show, but it's been fun. I know Jeff's doing his show right now over on Pine Island Research, so I don't want to kind of step on his toes here. So if he's doing, I think he is doing a show tonight. I believe so. But I know he starts now, and he said that he's kind of switched for my time. So obviously I appreciate that. So I'm going to reciprocate and decide to end here now. And I thought I was only going to go for an hour maybe. But this was fun. I like doing a solo show every once in a while. I haven't done one in a long time, but definitely we'll do something like this again. But yeah, guys, so we'll be having a show this Wednesday. We will. I'm working on. I have a guest that's probably going to be able to make it, hopefully, but we'll see what happens. But either way, I'll let you know, guys know. And then next Monday, a week from today, will be the 100th episode, and that's going to be the giveaway, the charity fundraiser, as well as the kind of prize contest giveaway. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of people on and just have a great time for the 100th episode, because after that, I'm taking a little break for a month or a little bit more, and we'll see. So it'll be fun. Be fun to do that and raise some money for a good cause and have fun with some of the questions and that kind of stuff, and give away some cool prizes, and I think it'll be good. But yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Tristan. Based says, how much of Sasquatch research is seeded by disinfo? A good amount, probably. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of gets put in that's not legit, but talk about that another time perhaps. Kevin Hamilton says, episode 100 soon approaching. I hear Tate is going to mud wrestle Robbie Knievel for the title of Squatcher of the Year. We'll see. I'm not gonna reveal anything, but we may have some crazy stuff going on. Right on. Great job, Alex. Nathan says, I love skiing at Killington. That's where I had my sighting. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's a cool area by the Green Mountains. Thank you, Brian, as always, for doing your mod stuff. And yeah, see you guys in a little bit here. ZB says I'll have to go back and watch the replay. Yeah, we just had some fun. You can catch the clip about the Bridgewater Triangle. 60 watching, only 52 likes. What are you waiting for? Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Lockbeard. Kim Perez says, thank you, Alex. Great way to spend Monday evening. Absolutely. Fun to be with all you guys. And thanks for all your questions and comments. And I'm glad I got to share the UFO story. That's always a fun one. Talking about all kinds of topics. Thank you, Ronnie, Joe, as well as Evan, dude. We'll see you soon, man. He's got another podcast around 6. Awesome. Sounds good. Yeah. Good night, everybody. And yeah, like I said, Jeff is doing his show over on Pine Island Research. So go check that out now. I'm sure some people have already moved over there, but definitely go check Jeff out for sure. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you guys later, and have a great rest of your week, guys. Have a good night.